grit, chaos, and sheer determination. Sometimes the most unforgettable films are born from pure survival. Tombstone wasn't handed an easy path. It faced collapsing productions, stubborn studios, and on-set drama that almost doomed it from the start. Yet, against all odds, it became one of the most celebrated westerns ever made. What unfolded behind the cameras was just as wild as the action on screen. Power struggles, casting surprises, and incredible sacrifices shaped this Western legend in ways most fans never realized. Number 1. Kurt Russell secretly directed. When things fell apart behind the scenes, it wasn't the credited director who pulled the project back together. It was the film's lead actor. The production of Tombstone was in shambles after the original director was dismissed and chaos took over the set. Scripts were being rewritten mid-shoot. The tone of the movie shifted daily and confusion ran through both the cast and crew. That's when Kurt Russell quietly stepped into the leadership role. Without demanding credit or attention, he met with producers, rearranged call sheets, and worked closely with the crew to keep the production alive. Russell essentially acted as the true director while George P. Cosmatos remained the official name on the credits. He reviewed footage, made decisions on which scenes stayed, and personally steered the story in the direction it needed to go. In interviews, Russell has remained humble about his role, but other cast members later confirmed his involvement was crucial. Without his steady hand, Tombstone might have been just another failed Western instead of a lasting classic. Number 2. The original director was fired early on. It all started with high hopes, but within weeks, the production faced its first major setback. The person originally chosen to guide the film wasn't a seasoned director, but the screenwriter himself. Kevin Jarrah had written a script filled with complex characters and dramatic moments. But when it came time to shoot, the pace ground to a halt. Production schedules slipped out of control. Tension grew on set, and the studio began to worry. Scenes were taking too long to film, and the cast was left frustrated by the lack of direction. With rising costs and low morale, the studio made a tough decision. Jarrah was removed from the director's chair before the project even found its rhythm. This sudden change created a storm of uncertainty, with the entire production scrambling to recover. The shift might have shattered the movie entirely, but instead it opened the door for the unusual leadership that helped save Tombstone from disaster. Number 3. Kevin Costner tried to block it. Behind the scenes of Hollywood's Western revival, a quiet power struggle unfolded that few fans knew about. While one production struggled to survive, another bigger budget Western was being prepared, and its star wasn't happy about the competition. At the time, Kevin Costner was spearheading his own epic about Wyatt Earp, backed by a major studio. According to several reports from those involved, Costner actively worked to limit Tombstone's success. He allegedly persuaded studios and distributors to avoid backing or releasing the film, hoping to secure the spotlight for his own version. Despite these behind-the-scenes maneuvers, Tombstone managed to push forward thanks to independent financing and determination from its cast and crew. In a twist of irony, Costner's heavily promoted Wyatt Earp failed to capture audience enthusiasm, while Tombstone exploded into a cult classic. It became a story of the underdog overcoming industry politics to win the hearts of viewers. Number 4. The script faced endless rejection. Long before cameras rolled, the story of Tombstone struggled to find anyone willing to believe in it. Hollywood producers were not lining up for another Western, especially one that didn't follow the typical blockbuster formula. The script written by Kevin Jarrah was packed with complex characters, detailed historical references, and intense dialogue. Studio after studio turned it down. Some executives thought it was too long. Others believed it was too serious or too densely packed with characters. There was even talk that Westerns were already outdated, and a project like this would flop at the box office. Instead of giving up, Jarrah refused to let the project fade away. He kept pitching, revising, and pushing forward. Eventually, independent financiers took a chance where the big players wouldn't. That decision paid off as Tombstone defied expectations and won over audiences worldwide. Number 5. William Dafoe almost played document casting decisions can change the entire tone of a movie, and this Western nearly went in a completely different direction. Before Val Kilmer stepped into the role of the unforgettable Doc Holliday, another actor was quietly considered for the part. William Dafoe, known for his intense and unpredictable performances, was on the shortlist to play Document. His unique presence and dramatic range made him a strong candidate. However, his recent roles in more controversial films had made some studio executives uneasy. There were concerns that Dafoe's involvement might stir unwanted publicity or overshadow the story itself. The risk felt too high for a production already facing budget and creative struggles. In the end, the producers decided against offering the part to Dafoe, and the opportunity never materialized. While Dafoe was an incredible talent, fans today can hardly imagine anyone else portraying Doc Holliday. Kilmer's performance became legendary, blending charm, danger, and frailty in a way that captivated audiences for decades. Number 6. The famous line was improvised. Some of the most quoted lines in film history happened by accident, and this Western classic is no exception. During filming, one moment stood out so much that it became the defining quote of the entire movie. Fans everywhere can instantly recognize the words, "I'm your Huckleberry." While the phrase was part of the script, the magic came from how it was delivered. Val Kilmer added his own spin to the line, crafting the slow, smooth delivery that gave it unforgettable weight. His quiet, unsettling tone turned a simple phrase into an iconic moment. What made it even more special was how naturally it flowed during the scene, catching both the audience and fellow actors by surprise. Even the crew on set reportedly knew right away that this line would become something special. Kilmer's creative decision wasn't rehearsed in any traditional way. He leaned into Doc Holliday's charm and danger, creating a performance that felt effortless, but was deeply calculated. What started as a small line in the script grew into the heartbeat of Tombstone, quoted by generations of fans long after the credits rolled. Number 7. Kilmer stayed in character off-camera. Dedication to a role can completely transform a performance, and one actor took that commitment to an entirely different level. Throughout filming, the man behind Doc Holliday didn't just act the part during scenes. He lived it every single day on set. Val Kilmer adopted Doc Holliday's frail posture, slurred speech, and distant demeanor even when the cameras weren't rolling. He kept his distance from the cast, rarely broke into casual conversation, and stayed immersed in the mindset of a dying man by blurring the lines between performance and reality. He created an atmosphere that pulled everyone deeper into the story. Kilmer even avoided normal cast gatherings and remained isolated during lunch breaks, keeping the illusion of Doc's lonely existence alive. This approach made his transformation all the more believable to those around him. This level of commitment added layers to his portrayal that a simple performance couldn't achieve. Fellow actors often felt uneasy around him, unsure where the role ended and the real person began. In the final product, that eerie authenticity became one of the movie's most memorable strengths, showing how far some actors will go to bring a character to life. Number 8. Michael Biehn nearly collapsed on set. Intense filming conditions don't just challenge endurance, they can push actors to their physical limits. During one of the most memorable moments in the movie, the climactic showdown between Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday, the stress of production took a dangerous toll. Michael Biehn, who portrayed Ringo, endured extreme Arizona heat while dressed in heavy black clothing designed to match the era's fashion. Long shooting days stretched into brutal hours under cloudless skies. By the time the crew prepared for the tense duel scene, Biehn was already battling exhaustion and dehydration. As the cameras rolled, his balance faltered and his vision blurred, but he stayed locked in character. The slightly unsteady, distant look on his face wasn't acting. It was a real struggle to stay on his feet. That genuine weakness added an unexpected edge to the scene, turning it into one of the most haunting duels in Western cinema. Even decades later, Biehn has described it as one of the most physically draining scenes of his entire career. Number 9. Kurt Russell almost got replaced too. Big studio productions often come with big expectations, and not every actor was considered a safe choice for leading roles. When casting decisions were underway, there were early concerns about whether the project's leading man had enough box office power to carry a major Western. Kurt Russell was determined to play Wyatt Earp, but his name didn't top the studio's preferred list. Executives pushed for bigger Hollywood names who they believed could guarantee higher ticket sales and more attention. Even after Russell secured the role, the pressure didn't stop. Studio heads questioned his appearance, performance style, and even details like his signature mustache. Some insiders revealed that there were ongoing discussions about possibly replacing him if early footage didn't impress. There were fears that Russell's more grounded, restrained acting wouldn't deliver the heroic image studios were chasing. Meanwhile, Russell stayed focused on making Wyatt more realistic rather than polished or glamorous. Rather than back down, Russell stood his ground and worked harder to prove his worth. His persistence paid off as his portrayal brought depth and restraint to Wyatt Earp's character. In the end, the actor who was nearly pushed aside became central to the movie's success and its lasting appeal among fans. Number 10. Townspeople wanted it shut down. Not everyone was thrilled about Hollywood bringing a gunslinging version of history back to life. When word spread that a big-budget production was filming in Arizona, some residents of the real town of Tombstone were less than welcoming. Local historians and museum curators voiced their concerns, calling the script inaccurate and criticizing the film's overly dramatic tone. Many felt the story focused too much on gunfights and action, ignoring the more complex realities of the town's past. There were even reports of letters being sent to the production team urging them to stop filming altogether. Tensions grew so high that certain scenes had to be relocated, and local officials debated restricting access to specific historic landmarks. Though the filmmakers continued with the project, they were forced to navigate local backlash throughout the shoot. The town had existed long before the movie, and its people made sure Hollywood knew it. Number 11. Sam Elliott almost left the movie. Production challenges didn't just affect the filming schedule. They nearly cost the movie one of its most respected actors. As the script went through constant rewrites, key elements of the story began to shift, and not always for the better. Sam Elliott, known for his powerful presence and commanding voice, was initially drawn to the project because of its subtle storytelling and moral depth. But as changes piled up, Elliott noticed that Virgil Earp's character was being reduced, losing some of the serious, thoughtful moments that had made the role appealing. He was especially disappointed by scenes that downplayed Virgil's leadership and strength, turning him into more of a background figure. Elliott worried that the role would be stripped of its complexity, making him just another side character in a sea of action. Frustrated by the direction the movie was taking, Elliott even considered walking away from the project. Thankfully, a meeting with producers allowed him to voice his concerns, and together they adjusted several scenes to restore Virgil's integrity. His decision to stay helped anchor the film with a performance that balanced quiet strength against the chaos surrounding it. In the final cut, Elliott's calm authority became one of the key elements grounding the film's intense energy. Number 12. Dana Delaney fought for her role. Landing a part in a major film is rarely simple, especially when expectations lean toward typecasting. For the role of Josephine Marcus, producers originally sought actresses with a more traditional Old West appearance, glamorous, polished, and fitting the expected mold of a love interest. Dana Delaney saw the character differently. She viewed Josephine as a bold, independent woman who wasn't just there to look pretty, but had a fiery spirit of her own. When Delaney auditioned, she avoided the standard approach, choosing instead to project strength and self-assurance. Her decision set her apart from the other candidates and caught the attention of the filmmakers. By staying true to Josephine's real-life reputation as a defiant and outspoken figure, Delaney secured the role. She later explained that she wanted Josephine to stand as an equal among the lawmen, not just be a decorative figure. That perspective helped shape how the character was written and portrayed on screen. Her performance added depth and authenticity to the character, transforming Josephine from a simple romantic subplot into a memorable force within the story. Number 13. Wyatt Earp's gunfight was real. Not every Hollywood action scene is purely fictional. Sometimes history provides moments even more dramatic than the movies. One of the most unforgettable sequences in Tombstone involves Wyatt Earp calmly walking into a storm of gunfire to take down the dangerous outlaw Cully Bill. Many moviegoers assume this scene was exaggerated for effect, but historical records suggest it really happened. During a shootout at Iron Springs in 1882, Wyatt Earp reportedly walked straight toward Cully Bill as bullets flew all around him. Cully Bill fired first and missed, while Earp returned fire with a single deadly shot. Historians still debate the exact details, but even critics agree the story carries elements of truth. The filmmakers embraced this remarkable account, turning it into one of the most thrilling moments in the movie. Some historical accounts even describe Earp's calm approach as unnerving to onlookers, with witnesses saying it felt like they were watching something supernatural. This added to the legend of Wyatt Earp, making the scene in Tombstone feel less like Hollywood fantasy and more like a dramatic retelling of real-life courage. Number 14. Costumes were brutally authentic. Movie magic often comes with a cost, and for the actors in Tombstone, that cost came in the form of intense physical discomfort. The production team was determined to make the costumes as accurate as possible, sticking closely to 1880s fashion. This meant heavy wool suits, layered shirts, stiff collars, and thick vests, exactly what people wore in the Old West. While the outfits looked fantastic on screen, they created misery behind the scenes, especially under Arizona's relentless heat. Actors sweated through their costumes, with some needing multiple wardrobe changes in a single day. A few cast members reportedly fainted from the combination of scorching temperatures and suffocating fabric. Val Kilmer later joked that it was the most method acting he had ever done, pretending to be deathly ill while actually suffering through every scene. Several other actors said the only way they stayed focused was by reminding themselves that the misery made every frame feel more authentic. Despite the suffering, the commitment to authenticity paid off, helping transport audiences straight into the dusty streets of Tombstone and giving the film its distinct lived-in look. Number 15. Deleted scenes showed a darker Earp. Creative decisions don't just shape what audiences see. They also control what they don't. During the editing process of Tombstone, several scenes were cut that portrayed Wyatt Earp in a much harsher and more morally complicated light. These deleted moments showed Earp making colder decisions, showing less mercy to his enemies and struggling with personal demons. Early drafts of the movie leaned more into his flaws, revealing a man driven by revenge rather than justice. Producers ultimately decided to remove these scenes to make Earp appear more heroic and relatable. Some fans who have seen the deleted footage believe the original version offered a more realistic portrayal of a conflicted historical figure. The choice to soften his character helped the movie's mainstream appeal, but left many wondering how different the story could have been with those grittier layers intact. Number 16. Test audiences changed the ending. Movies often change dramatically after test screenings, and Tombstone was no exception. Originally, the film was meant to end on a more somber note, closing with Wyatt Earp walking off alone after his battles were over. When early audiences watched this version, reactions were mixed. Many viewers found the ending unsatisfying, feeling it left the story too bleak and unfinished. The studio quickly realized they needed a more emotional payoff. In response, the filmmakers added extra scenes showing Wyatt Earp visiting Doc Holliday on his deathbed, followed by an uplifting final chapter revealing Earp's future life. These changes shifted the tone from grim realism to bittersweet closure. The revised ending gave the audience a sense of hope and resolution, helping Tombstone leave a lasting impression. It's a classic example of how audience feedback can completely reshape the story a film tells. Number 17. The shootout took 4 days to film. What feels like a few intense minutes on screen often takes much longer to create. And in Tombstone, one scene pushed the entire crew to the limit. The famous shootout at the OK Corral was supposed to be a fast-paced, high-energy sequence, but it turned into one of the most grueling parts of production. Filming the iconic gunfight took 4 full days with long hours dedicated to choreographing every movement and camera angle. The production team used practical effects, including real blank-firing weapons, dust explosions, and squibs to make the action feel authentic. Actors performed take after take in hot, dusty conditions, while stunt coordinators constantly adjusted the scenes for safety and realism. By the end, many of the cast members described it as one of the most exhausting sequences they had ever filmed. The result was a breathtaking, tension-filled showdown that many consider one of the greatest shootouts in Western movie history, worth every drop of sweat it took to get it right. Number 18. Kilmer studied Doc's illness closely. Bringing historical figures to life on screen takes more than just costumes and dialogue. It takes dedication to every small detail. For his portrayal of Doc Holliday, Val Kilmer went far beyond the typical preparation. He researched the effects of tuberculosis, studying 19th-century medical records to understand how the disease affected Holliday's appearance, speech, and behavior. Kilmer practiced breathing patterns that mimicked the shallow, labored breaths of someone in the late stages of illness. He also adjusted his posture, speech rhythm, and even the way he blinked, all to reflect the constant discomfort Doc would have endured. This attention to physical detail created a portrayal that felt painfully real. Audiences didn't just see a gunslinger, they saw a man fighting for every breath. Kilmer's performance became one of the most haunting parts of Tombstone, proving how in-depth research can elevate a character to unforgettable status. Number 19. The score was composed in 4 weeks. Great music can define a movie, and Tombstone owes much of its atmosphere to its unforgettable score. What's remarkable is that this iconic soundtrack was composed in record time under extreme pressure. Bruce Broughton stepped in to score the film after the original composer left the project late in production. With the movie nearing completion, Broughton was given just 4 weeks to create an entire musical backdrop for the story. Working on a tight schedule, he crafted sweeping orchestral pieces that captured both the intensity of the gunfights and the emotional struggles of the characters. Every note had to be written, recorded, and finalized in a fraction of the usual time. Despite the rushed process, the music became a standout feature, praised for its richness and emotional power. Broughton's work proved that even under tight deadlines, creativity can still thrive and leave a lasting mark on cinema. Number 20. The editing room was chaos. After filming wrapped, the struggles didn't end for Tombstone. The post-production process turned into a rescue mission with editors scrambling to piece together a story from a mountain of disconnected footage. Scenes were shot by different directors with different styles, creating a patchwork of tones and pacing. Early cuts of the film reportedly made little sense, jumping between characters and plot points with no clear flow. Producers brought in multiple editors to rework the footage, trying different versions to salvage the movie. Hours of film were cut, storylines trimmed, and entire scenes reshaped to find a version that worked. In the end, it took patience, skill, and sharp editing decisions to mold Tombstone into the thrilling, fast-paced movie audiences came to love. The final product felt seamless on screen, hiding the frantic struggles that happened behind the editing room doors. Number 21. Russell cut his own lines for Kilmer. Sometimes the most powerful performances come from actors supporting each other rather than competing for screen time. That was exactly the case behind the scenes of Tombstone, where the film's leading man made a surprising sacrifice. Kurt Russell recognized early on that Val Kilmer's portrayal of Doc Holliday was something extraordinary. Instead of trying to dominate the story as Wyatt Earp, Russell took it upon himself to trim down some of his own lines and scenes during the editing process. His goal was simple: let the strongest performance shine and make the overall movie better. Russell wanted the audience to fully experience Doc Holliday's charm, pain, and brilliance without unnecessary distractions. This selfless decision helped balance the story, giving both characters their moments without overshadowing each other. It's a rare example of humility in Hollywood, and one of the reasons Tombstone feels so well-rounded and memorable. Number 22. Rivalries fueled industry drama. Behind the production of Tombstone was a fierce competition that extended far beyond the set. At the same time the movie was being filmed, another major project about Wyatt Earp was also in development, led by none other than Kevin Costner. The two productions quickly became rivals, with studios and media comparing casting choices, scripts, and even release dates. Insiders reported growing tension, with both camps eager to be crowned the definitive Wyatt Earp movie. Costner's version aimed for a sweeping historical epic, while Tombstone focused on fast-paced action and sharp dialogue. Industry gossip suggested that Costner tried to use his influence to block distribution of Tombstone, though it pushed through thanks to independent backing. In the end, it was the underdog that captured audiences' hearts. While Costner's film struggled to find its footing, Tombstone became a cult classic, remembered for its energy, memorable quotes, and unforgettable characters. Number 23. History was fought for on set. Creative battles weren't limited to Hollywood executives. On the set of Tombstone, accuracy became a daily point of discussion. Several key members of the cast and crew pushed for historical details to be respected, especially when certain scenes strayed too far from the truth. Val Kilmer, known for his commitment to research, was one of the strongest voices for keeping moments authentic. He worked alongside Kurt Russell to question and adjust dialogue or action that felt out of place with the real history of Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. Some of the changes happened last minute, with actors altering lines right before shooting began. Despite Hollywood's tendency to exaggerate, this behind-the-scenes effort gave the film an extra layer of credibility. Thanks to those efforts, Tombstone earned praise for weaving real historical elements into its dramatic storytelling, offering viewers both excitement and surprising accuracy.